Hello, everybody. I'm Grant Fluff from Fletcher's Sports Zone, and welcome to the long-awaited episode 6 of Hall of Fame or Hall of Good. I know, I cannot believe it has been over a month since we have done the tight end edition myself, but that's okay. We're getting the series right back underway with our first defensive position in the NFL. Again, my original plan was to get the series done before I move into college. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. We have linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, and special teams to go. So 4 more editions of football before we're probably going to transfer to hockey as the next sport. But I hope you guys have been enjoying the series so far. If you did hit that like button, please go check out the Hall of Fame or Hall of Good playlist on the channel. Again, I go through 15 players and I determine whether they belong in the Hall of Fame or not. Some may be eligible for the Hall of Fame. Some may have just recently retired, so they're not yet. But these, at the end of the day, every single player on this list is retired and has a legit opportunity of going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. With that out of the way, let's begin, shall we? Defensive end edition. Of course, this is left end, right end, defensive tackle. All right, let's do it. First and foremost, we have Cameron Wake. He primarily spent his career with the Dolphins, but he did retire as a Tennessee Titan. He has 100.5 career sacks in regular season play. He also appeared in 1 playoff game, registering 6 tackles. He has made 5 Pro Bowls and 1 All-Pro back in 2012. That, without a question, being his best season, where he had 15 sacks. He also made his first Pro Bowl appearance in 2010, when he had 14 career sacks. Pro Football Reference ranks him as the 52nd best defensive end, or I guess technically right end, in NFL history. But you want to know what? This is my opinion, and Pro Football Reference, they're going to give me the statistics, but I'm not an enormous fan of their Hall of Fame monitor that they have on their website. I think sometimes it's extremely accurate, and I think sometimes it's wicked flawed. My stepping stone, if a player should be inducted into a Hall of Fame, is if you have over 100 career sacks. Wake, just barely, but he does have it. And we are talking about one of the greatest Miami Dolphin defenders of all time. Now, granted, he's not Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, Nick Bonaconte type fantastic, but he is still the best Dolphin defensive player, I would say, since Jason Taylor retired back in 2011. I really don't think that there has been a Dolphin defensive player, probably a Dolphin player in general, as dominant as Cameron Wake was, especially in his prime, getting double-digit sacks in 5 years out of 10. Now, he did have a couple of injury-riddled seasons in 2015 and 2018, and his last season in Tennessee, especially 2019, where he played a second career low in games with 9, only registering 4 tackles and 2.5 sacks. We're not going to really bring up his time with Tennessee here because, again, if we're focusing on a player that should be in the Hall of Fame or whatnot, we got to focus on his achievements, right? Yeah, let's do that. His awards are looking like he made the NFL Top 100 players 6 times and was named the Defensive Player of the Month for the AFC back in October of 2012, again, the year he had 15 sacks. And he was on some terrible Miami Dolphins teams. I mean, 2012, that was Ryan Tannehill's rookie year. Really, from 2000, I think it was 8 when they lost to the Ravens in the wildcard round, to 2016 when they lost in the wildcard round to the Steelers. From 2009 to 2015, they were terrible. And they were bottom of the barrel terrible. They were finishing below the Jets and the Bills in the AFC East every couple of seasons. But Cameron Wake always made the Dolphins a reason to tune into them. Now, with that being said, there are actually quite a few players who have over 100 sacks that are eligible for the Hall of Fame and still aren't in. And at the end of the day, Cameron Wake isn't going to be one of those names that are going to be brought up a whole lot. As much as I do like Cameron Wake, and as much as he was one of my favorite players growing up watching, he has the Pro Bowls, he has the sack number, and he has the All-Pro. But I think at the end of the day, Canton, Ohio is going to say no to Cameron Wake. Would I put him in the Hall of Fame? I mean, I always try to gauge this. Is he going to be in the Hall of Fame within 25 years, pretty much? Could I see it happening? Sure, but I feel the ballot would have to be pretty weak for that to happen. And again, Wake, he was very consistent throughout his career, but again, out of 10 years in Miami, he only hit double-digit sacks 5 times and only has the one All-Pro. And that's going to hurt him in the voting system, I feel. So Cameron Wake, he won't be eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, I think, until 2024 or 2025, one of those 2 years. But alas, he will not be anywhere close to first ballot. And no, I do not think he will be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Would I put him in the Hall of Fame? Dolphins Hall of Fame, without a question. Pro Football Hall of Fame, I would have to honestly say no on that. Again, it's just, I feel like there's a lot better edge rushers in the Hall of Fame that should have been in years ago or will be in by the time Cameron Wake will be up for eligibility. I mean, you even take a look at the guys playing nowadays. I mean, I don't really know if you would consider Von Miller an edge rusher. You maybe call him an outside linebacker, but Von Miller, Aaron Donald for sure. And you have a lot of young defensive tackle talent in this league. Guys like Vita Vea, Jonathan Allen, Brian Burns. Not saying those guys will be Hall of Famers, but I'm just saying there is a lot of young defensive lineman talent currently in the league. I'm going to have to say no to Cameron Wake. All right, moving on to Jerome Brown. Now, this is a pretty sensitive subject because obviously he passed away before the 1992 season, and one of, if not the best friend of Reggie White. He made 2 Pro Bowls, all 2 being All-Pros in 1990 and 1991. 29 and a half career sacks, 10 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions for a defensive lineman. He was a defensive tackle, again, tragically passed away in June 25th, 1992 because of a car accident. Now, again, I've said this before with guys like Bo Jackson and whatnot. The Hall of Fame is never a what-if game. It is a what is in front of us game. And I'm sorry to Jerome Brown, but again, Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame, I think he absolutely should be inducted into their Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to have to say no. And I know a lot of diehard Eagle fans want him in the Hall of Fame, and even myself included. If he had a healthy 10, 15-year career, made 5 or 6 Pro Bowls, made 3 or 4 All-Pros, I don't think there's a question. I think if he retired, he would be in the Hall of Fame today. But again, because of such a short year, only being in the league for 5 years and only making 2 Pro Bowls, granted they were both All-Pro years also, and the 29 and a half career sacks, he was a fantastic defensive tackle for the Eagles, and it is unfortunate he passed away at age 27. But again, the Hall of Fame is not a what-if game. It is a what we have in front of us. If we were playing the what-if game, Jerome Brown 100% is in the Hall of Fame, but we can't do that in the voting system, and that is why Jerome Brown, unfortunately, just stays out. And it sucks too because, I don't have his tackles in front of me because obviously I don't think they tracked the tackling until like the mid to early 90s. But Jerome Brown probably also had about 400 career tackles. This guy was a monster. And like I said, he made 2 All-Pros in 5 years. He was incredible. But again, unfortunately, his career lasted too short. His life lasted too short. And it sucks. And, when we get to the safeties edition, I'm unfortunately probably going to be saying the same things about Pat Tillman and Sean Taylor, but we'll get to that some other day. Right now, I look at Jerome Brown and I say, man, he had a fantastic career ahead of him, and he has pretty damn good statistics now, but I cannot put him in the Hall of Fame. Moving on to Julius Peppers. Okay, so kind of going from the 2010s to the 80s and 90s to, I guess, really the 2000s and the 2010s too, I guess. So Peppers made 9 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, second overall pick out of the 2002 draft by the Panthers. He made the Hall of Fame 2000s and 2010s team, and he also won the Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2002, where he had 1 interception and 12 sacks. In 2004, he made his first All-Pro, having 11 sacks. In 2006, he made his second All-Pro, 13 sacks, and he led the league in tackles for loss with 18. He would join the Bears in 2010. He would make a Pro Bowl 3 of 4 years with Chicago, made an All-Pro in 2010, also made Pro Bowls in 2011 and 2012, getting 22.5 sacks those 2 years combined. He has over 700 career regular season tackles. He also made a Pro Bowl with the Packers, getting 10.5 sacks in 2015 before joining the Panthers in 2017, his second stint there, and he had 11 sacks in 2017. I think a lot of people forget about that. He had 16 sacks as a 37 and 38-year-old. That is really impressive. Yes, I don't even think there's any debate here. Julius Peppers, he may not have a Super Bowl and he may not have a Defensive Player of the Year to his name, but he does have the Defensive Rookie of the Year. He does have the 2-decade Hall of Fame teams and the 9 Pro Bowls on top of the 3 All-Pros. I think without any question and no controversy, Julius Peppers is a Hall of Famer. He will be first ballot in 2023. Okay, he'll be first ballot in 2023. I think he does get first ballot next year. Well, there you go. We'll get first ballot next year then. All right, best of luck, Julius. Hopefully I didn't just announce or jinx you there. But, I certainly didn't. He has, including playoff statistics, over 160 career sacks. On top of all the accolades, Peppers is a Hall of Famer, and it's not even a question. On to player number 4, Vince Wilfork. I cannot wait to see him get inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame in a few weeks. That's actually, I think that's sometime in August. Or, excuse me, not August, September. I think it's, I want to say, it may be September 17th, the 24th. It's one of those September Saturdays, but Vince Wilfork will be getting inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. He will be Hall of Fame eligible after he was Hall of Fame eligible this year, excuse me. So he's not first ballot Hall of Famer, but that's okay. He still made 5 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, and 1 Super Bowls with the Patriots in 2004 and 2014. He had 16 career sacks, over 500 regular season tackles, definitely well over 60 or 600 tackles if you include playoff statistics. And believe it or not, despite being weighed 325 pounds, he got 3 interceptions. He had 2 in 2011. One of them was when he picked off Phillip Rivers. I'm blanking on what the other 2 interceptions were in his career, but his first career interception happened against Phillip Rivers in week 2 of the 2011 season. Then in 2012, he was the defensive lineman who shoved the Jets center into Mark Sanchez's face, causing the butt fumble. You get the point here. Vince Wilfork has been involved with some pretty unique plays in his career. And he ended his career with Houston. He never registered a sack with the Texans, nor made a Pro Bowl, but he did have 43 career tackles. And his last ever game was against the Patriots in the 2016 divisional round. He's 40 years old now. Like I mentioned, he really doesn't have much accolades other than the Pro Bowl, the All-Pro, and the Super Bowl ring. Let me just see what else here. He ranked in the NFL top 100 players 3 times from 2011 to 2013. And he's a fan favorite in New England. I can say growing up in Massachusetts, he is one of those players that really the fans loved. And even when he left for Houston, not a lot of fans were bitter. A lot of fans were just happy. They got to see a decade of Vince Wilfork dominance. And like I mentioned, even his last career game was against New England in the 2016 playoffs. So Wilfork got a pretty good career. Again, 5 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. There's probably better defensive tackles out there, especially some we're going to get to later on in the video that aren't in the Hall of Fame. But I do think Vince Wilfork will be in the Hall of Fame. This is kind of one of those situations where Vince Wilfork played on the Texans his entire career. I don't know if I would say Wilfork's a Hall of Famer or not, but since he played with New England, he got the recognition, he has the playoff appearances and success on top of the 5 Pro Bowls. And again, All-Pro, just adding the cherry on top of the ice cream. I do think Vince Wilfork will be a Hall of Famer probably within the next 5 years. Again, he this past year was his first ballot year. He's not going to get on there, but that's okay. Maybe he gets in this year, but I doubt it. He's probably going to have to wait until about 2024, 2025, but Wilfork should get in due time. But yes, Vince Wilfork, he's making the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I would also put him in the Fletcher Sports Zone Hall of Fame, if you will. All right, moving on next to Phil Hanson. We're going back to the 90s here. He played in, including the playoffs, he played in 170 career games and had over 600 regular season tackles and 61.5 regular season sacks, including the playoffs. He has 65 career total sacks in general. Only 1 career interception, which came in his last season in 2001. He forced 8 fumbles and had 349 solo hits with a safety. All right. Pretty good stuff there. He was also a member of the 1991 All-Rookie team. All right, 61.5 sacks is very impressive, but again, I think it's the lack of accolades here. I'm very surprised he never made a Pro Bowl, especially in 1995 with 76 combined tackles and 10 sacks. He probably should have made the Pro Bowl that year, if I'm being honest, but that was the only time he reached double-digit sacks. He also, in 1996, where he had 80 tackles, that was his career high. And again, though I do think he should have a Pro Bowl to his name, and he does have quite a bit of sacks, I can't say I would put Phil Hanson in the Hall of Fame. Of course, he was overshadowed by guys like Cornelius Bennett and Bruce Smith. So, Hanson was kind of that third guy. He was kind of that ghost that was, you knew was there. You knew you had to worry about him, but he never got the recognition he deserved, and it clearly shows with not even making a Pro Bowl. I basically just wanted to shout Phil Hanson out here because, again, I think he had one of the more underrated careers, especially when you talk about one of the best run stoppers from the 1990s. But again, man, no Pro Bowls with no accolades and only 1 season with double-digit sacks. I got to say, Phil Hanson does not make mine nor Canton, Ohio's Hall of Fame. Moving on now to Simeon Rice. Well, at least Simeon Rice, I know for a fact, does have the playoff success going for him. Of course, that picture right there taken in Super Bowl 37, his only ring of his career. But he made 3 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, and he was the 1966 Defensive Rookie of the Year with the Arizona Cardinals, where he had 12.5 sacks and 52 combined tackles. Yeah, pretty good. He made his first Pro Bowl appearance in 1999 with Arizona, 16.5 sacks that season. He joined the Buccaneers in 2001, of course, won the Super Bowl in 2002. He was an All-Pro that year, 15.5 sacks, 1 interception, 50 combined tackles, and the only safety of his career. And in 2003, he continued to play really well, making the last Pro Bowl of his career, starting in all 16 games, 8 passes defended, 6 forced fumbles, which led the league, 15 sacks. That's another borderline all-pro season for him right there. He would end off his career with the Colts and Broncos in 2007, doing next to nothing there, because I'm literally just finding out right now he spent cups of coffee stints with the Colts and Broncos, but neither here or there. Buccaneers legend, and he was very, very good with the Cardinals also, but since he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, I associate him more with the Bucs. 122 career regular season sacks. You include that with the playoffs, that's 7 more. 129 total there. And he had 23 tackles. During the Super Bowl run, he had 3 forced fumbles. Wow. Averaging a forced fumble a game during the Bucs 0-2 playoff run. Now, I don't know if he had 1 against San Francisco in the divisional round, 1 against Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game, and 1 against Las Vegas in the Super Bowl. Well, I guess then Oakland, obviously being the Raiders, but stud. Probably could have been close to winning Super Bowl MVP too. I know it went to Dexter Jackson, but guys like Simeon Rice, Mike Allstott, Derek Brooks, they all could have certainly won it. Simeon Rice had a great game, of course. But, yeah. So, kind of surprised he's not in the Hall of Fame. And I think by saying that, yes, I do think he should be. He's definitely in Fletcher Sports Zone's Hall of Fame. I'm letting you know right out of the bat there. And I do think he should be in Canton, Ohio also. Now, I know people are going to say, well, he really only had about 4 or 5 incredible seasons. We're not bringing up the fact that in 2004, he had 12 sacks, and in 2005, he had 14, and he didn't even make the Pro Bowl in either of those 2 years. So in reality, we should be talking 5 Pro Bowls to 1 All-Pro. Stats stay the same. Defensive Rookie of the Year, like I mentioned, a key contributor to a Super Bowl champion team. Yes, put Simeon Rice in the Hall of Fame. Kind of shocked he hasn't gotten inducted already, which makes me believe he won't be inducted for a while to come. But yes, I would induct him at least fairly soon. L.C. Greenwood is the next one here. Pittsburgh Steelers legend, played there his entire career from 1969 to 1981. Passed away in 2013, so even if he does make the Hall of Fame, he unfortunately won't get to live that moment, which really sucks. Remember when I was telling you he was drafted in 1969 by the Steelers? Yeah, 10th round pick, 238th overall. And the fact he made that career out of 6 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, winning the Super Bowl 4 times with the Steelers in the 70s, and making the Hall of Fame All-70 team. Yeah, just kind of another player that I'm really stunned how he isn't in the Hall of Fame yet. And again, yes, he's in my Hall of Fame. He 100% should be in Canton, Ohio also. 78 career sacks. He had a career high with 11 sacks in 1971 and in 1974. He made his first Pro Bowl appearance in 1973 with 8.5 sacks. He had 14 fumble recoveries in his career also, and had 1 safety in his career, which also was in 1974. So we'll take a look at some other of his awards here. Almost won 1984 Defensive Player of the Year. He ranked 6th that season. I think maybe if he did win a Defensive Player of the Year, that probably would have been the lock. I mean, L.C. Greenwood, I mean, he's right there with guys like Chad Ochocinco and Torrey Holt. And, trying to think of someone else here. You know, I'll even go the special teams route. Devin Hester. Like, he's right there. Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? I have no clue, but he should be, and it's crazy to think that he's not. I mean, again, kind of like in Phil Hanson's sense, he was that invisible player to Joe Green, Jack Lambert, and Jack Ham. But unlike Phil Hanson, in a way, he has the statistics to back up his greatness. And again, I can't stress it enough. 10th round pick. 10th round pick. It's a joke that LC Greenwood is not in the Hall of Fame. Passed away in 2013 at age 67. Yeah, he should be. And, I look at 6 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, and the 4 Super Bowls. I'm saying that right there is already Hall of Fame numbers right there. You add in the fact that the Pro Football Hall of Fame themselves have him on the All-70s team. I mean, that right there should have been the lock, not a defensive player or rookie of the year, whatever. Come on here. Come on. Quit being lazy. Get LC Greenwood in the Hall of Fame. Get that last member from the Steelers. I mean, really, who else from those 70s Steeler teams can really make the Hall of Fame? Rocky Blyer, give me a break, right? Like, you have guys like Bradshaw, Swan, Stallworth, Harris, Lamb, Lambert, Green. Like, you have all Mel Blount. Like, you have all the guys in the Hall of Fame already. Just add in the last one. LC Greenwood is the missing piece. Come on. Get him inducted already. Charles Mann is next. Charles Mann, he was not only a man, he was a monster with the Redskins. For 11 years, he had 82 career sacks in Washington, his career high being in 1985, where he had 14 and a half sacks, somehow, some way, not making the Pro Bowl. So when you see 4 Pro Bowls next to Charles Mann's name, I'm really seeing 5. I'm really seeing 5. And then, of course, he ended off his career blaze of glory with San Francisco in 1994 when they defeated the Chargers, scoring 49 points against them in Super Bowl 29. But, yeah, anyway, I think Charles Mann probably should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, I know, technically, he was a second-team all-conference member 3 times in 1987, 1989, and 1991. I know he never made All-Pro and never won a Defensive Player of the Year, but this is another guy where you look at the regular season statistics, that's great. He also backed it up in the playoffs. 10 career playoff sacks with a fumble recovery. And again, he won Super Bowls with Washington, 1987, 1991, and 1994. And just like guys like LC Greenwood and Simeon Rice, this isn't a bench player. This is a guy who's a key contributor on at least the Redskins Super Bowls. Say what you want about the San Francisco Super Bowl, whatever. He only played in 2 games that playoff year anyway. Still obviously worthy of a ring, but still. But at least with those 2 Super Bowls with Washington, when they had Doug Williams and Mark Rippon as the quarterbacks, yeah. He was a key contributor in that. And again, this guy was drafted in 1983, meaning if he was drafted a year prior, 1982, he probably has 4 Super Bowls to his name. Obviously, Washington beating Miami in Super Bowl, I believe it was 17, if I'm not mistaken, Super Bowl 17 in 1982. So, he doesn't have over 100 career sacks or a Defensive Player of the Year or an All-Pro appearance, so I'm not going to say, what are we waiting for? You got Charles Mann in the Hall of Fame. That I get. But I see why he's waiting a long time. But, yes, I do think Charles Mann, he at least gets inducted into Fletcher Sports Zone's Hall of Fame. I think he should also get inducted into Canton, Ohio. Willie? I don't know. Again, there have been quite a few defensive linemen we haven't got to yet, and guys like Simeon Rice and LC Greenwood, I would definitely put ahead of Charles Mann, who are deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. But yes, I do think Mann will, in due time, it might be another 10, 15 years from now, but yes, I do hope Mann gets inducted into Canton. But yes, he's in my Hall of Fame. He has locked up a spot there. All right, moving on to Kevin Williams. He retired in 2015. So technically he's been eligible for a couple of years now. Pro Football Reference ranks him as the 9th best defensive tackle in history. Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's not hard to see why. Made the All-2000s Hall of Fame team, made 6 Pro Bowls with 5 All-Pros, made his first Pro Bowl and All-Pro in 2004, 3 fumble recoveries, 11.5 sacks, 70 tackles. That 70 tackles will be a career high. He made All-Pro and Pro Bowl with the Vikings again from 2006 to 2010. In 11 years in Minnesota, he had 60 career sacks, 13 fumble recoveries, 5 interceptions, 2 of which being pick sixes, and over 460 tackles. He also played 1 year with the Seahawks in 2014, making a Super Bowl, not winning it, but making it, and he played with the Saints in 2015. Not making a Pro Bowl, but being a solid veteran leader on those teams. This is the only thing that I think is holding Kevin Williams back, is that he never registered a sack in the playoffs. But still, he had a couple passes defended, forced a fumble. Seemed like 2004 was his best playoff year with the Vikings. Of course, they were going to beat the Packers in the wildcard game. That was when Randy Moss mooed the fans at Lambeau Field before they went on to lose to the Eagles in the divisional round. But yeah, Kevin Williams, stud. Again, 6 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pros, Hall of Fame team. Again, he doesn't have a defensive player to his name. He didn't win Rookie of the Year in 2003, although he had to be close. I mean, he had 10.5 sacks his rookie year. He had to be close to winning it, if not, the runner-up, somewhere in the top 5 voting. Yeah, get Kevin Williams in the Hall of Fame. Again, it kind of makes sense why he has been first ballot, because guys who retired in 2015, Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, even a guy we'll get to later on in this video, another Viking legend, Jared Allen. Those guys also retired after the 2015 season, and those guys are all bigger names than Kevin Williams, as they all should be. But Kevin Williams, very good career. I do think in due time he will get into the Hall of Fame. Yep, I'm putting him in my Hall of Fame. I'm putting him in Canton, Ohio. Yeah. All right, moving on to Elodie Nada. Kind of the same deal here. He's not eligible yet, but 5 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, 32.5 career sacks. He had 5 career interceptions, 517 tackles in the regular season. Won a Super Bowl with the Ravens in 2012. Had 13 tackles during that Super Bowl run. 50 career tackles total with 4 passes defended. Ooh, baby. Elodie Nada was very underrated his entire career. I mean, say what you want about his time with the Lions and the Eagles. Yeah, he didn't really do a whole lot his last 3 years in the league. But when he was with the Ravens, he was unstoppable. And, there's so much to focus on those Ravens defenses, right? Like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and whatnot. But Elodie Nada was the piece that was solving the puzzle. Again, Ray Lewis, linebacker. Darrelle Revis, free safety. Linebacker, secondary, done. You need a defensive lineman. That was Elodie Nada. Stuff the run. Got in front of the quarterback's face. Knocked down the passes. Again, this guy had 40 career passes defended. He shut down star players like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. Hate to say Carson Palmer, but obviously as a Raven player, he played against the Bengals a lot, so Carson Palmer. Say legendary names, I'm saying Carson Palmer, but you get what I'm saying. Really solid quarterbacks. Andrew Luck. I think that was a picture from a 2013 or 2014 game, it looks like. Andrew Luck. Again, not legendary quarterback, but a very solid one in his prime. I was going to do the whole mention Blake Bortles in a video thing, but nah, let's not do that. Even though I just did, but you get what I'm saying. Obviously, if you're new here, Blake Bortles is my favorite NFL player, so that's that reference for you. But yeah, again, just like before, guys like Rice and Greenwood, this guy was a key contributor on a championship team. He has the Pro Bowls. He has the 2 All-Pros. Again, no defensive player of the year or whatever, but he was literally a defensive tackle. Unless you have, 15-plus sacks, you're not going to even get any recognition winning Defensive Player of the Year unless your name is Aaron Donald. I'm being honest. Unless your name is Aaron Donald, good luck winning a Defensive Player of the Year, ever. Warren Sapp will even tell you. Doesn't come easy. Sapp never won Defensive Player of the Year. Or did he? Hold on. Oh, my bad. He did in 1999. 12.5 sacks. Really? 12.5 sacks? Okay. Well, okay. Warren Sapp can tell you how hard it is to win one then. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know Warren Sapp won the 1999 Defensive Player of the Year. But that's okay because guess what? You research, you learn, and you apply that information. Let's hope I don't say a defensive tackle's never won a Defensive Player of the Year unless his name is Aaron Donald. Well, but anyway, Haloti Ngata probably should be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to have to wait a while to get into canon, especially since his last few years with the Lions and the Eagles weren't ideal. And it's going to be solely based off his time with the Ravens. Do I think he'll get in the Hall of Fame like within the next decade? Yes. Like I think he'll have to wait until around 2027 probably, but I do think, rough estimate, but I do think Haloti Ngata will be inducted into the Hall of Fame in due time. He'll be inducted into my Hall of Fame too. But again, ahead of guys like Greenwood, guys down this list, even Charles Mann, I hate to say it, but even Charles Mann, who made less Pro Bowls, but, won more championships and had more career sacks. I mean, you could even argue someone like Charles Mann belonging in the Hall of Fame before Haloti Ngata. Recency bias will probably say otherwise. But, yeah, Ngata, he's getting in the Hall of Fame. The question is when. I don't think it's going to be for a while. He will be eligible in 2024, but, yeah, I don't think he'll make it in first ballot. I don't think there's a shot that happens. I mean, maybe, but if DeMarcus Lawrence didn't get in first ballot in 2021, Haloti Ngata is not getting first ballot in 2024. Spoiler alert. I mean, he's going in the same class as Julius Peppers. Julius Peppers is going in the Hall of Fame before Haloti Ngata. That's not a knock on Ngata either. That just shows you how good Julius Peppers is. Anyway, RayChildress. We go back to the 90s here. All right. 5 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, drafted 3rd overall by the Oilers. Spent time with the Oilers and Cowboys. Actually, didn't win a Super Bowl with Dallas. I'm about to say he did, but that was in 95, not 96. Had 76.5 career sacks and only 2 career playoff sacks. RayChildress was really good. Again, I think Tennessee Titans Hall of Fame. I think without question. But, 1985 All-Rookie team. Ranked 8th in Defensive Player of the Year in 1992. That was his 1 All-Pro season where he had 13 sacks. Oh, yeah, that was his career high by a landslide. And then 1993 followed it up with 9 sacks, which is the 2nd highest in his career. And he did have over 800 tackles, I will say, including the playoffs. He had well over 900 career tackles. So I'll give my props to RayChildress there. He was a tackling machine, and he does have a very solid sack count. But I can't say I will put RayChildress in the Hall of Fame. Or at least if he does get inducted in one day, this one makes sense why he's waiting a very long time. But ultimately, I wouldn't put him in my Hall of Fame, or at least I put a lot of other players ahead of him. I hate to say it, but I'd probably even put Cameron Wake ahead of RayChildress. Now, granted, I know what you're going to say. Grant, you were born 2004. How are you properly rating a guy from the 1980s and 90s? Listen, I'm just researching statistics. I've watched highlights, game film, whatever. I feel confident enough in knowing what I'm talking about. If the whole play-by-play broadcasting career doesn't work, I want to become an NFL historian, so relax. I feel confident in what I'm saying. I need the statistics in front of me and whatnot, but I feel confident in what I'm saying, basically. And this is not a knock on RayChildress. If you're even announced in this video, that should be an honor that at least if not Pro Football, if not Canton, Ohio, the Hall of Fame rise, you know what? If they're not putting you in the Hall of Fame conversation, well, gosh darn it, Grant Fluff and Fletcher Sports Zone is. That counts as something, doesn't it? All right, moving on to William Perry, the refrigerator. Oh, boy. Of course, more iconic for his fullback dive against the Patriots in Super Bowl 20. No. There you go. There we have the fridge. Played on the Bears, and he also spent 1993 and 94 on the Eagles. He had 29 and a half career sacks, over 500 career tackles, and only one career playoff sack. Now, listen, I know the fridge is like very famous. I know he was a first-round pick. I know he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and he scored numerous rushing touchdowns. Yeah, he scored 3 in his entire career. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns, all coming in 1985. This guy was literally the definition of a human fullback back in the day. And I understand that he's a Chicago Bear legend, and he definitely will be in the Chicago Bears Hall of Fame if he isn't already. But really, other than 1985, what was his best season? 1991, where he had a career-high 5.5 sacks. In 1985, he also had 2 fumble recoveries. Had 5 sacks in 1986 again. And then didn't register a sack in 1998, where he played 3 games. Had 8 sacks combined from 1989 to 1990. And he only registered 1 career sack in his last 2 years, which was with the Eagles. Again, the refrigerator, the endorser, the avalanche, whatever. I mean, William Perry has a lot of nicknames. Is he an NFL legend? Sure. Like, I'm sorry, but that fullback dive touchdown, Jim McMahon handing it off to William Perry, scores to make it, what was that? Like the Bears scoring their 4th or 5th touchdown that game? Dude, that is going to always be probably the most iconic, second most iconic play at the 1-yard line in Super Bowl history. I was about to say the first, but oh my goodness, would Patriot fans be mad at me calling William Perry's fullback dive a better play than Malcolm Butler's interception, which no, I don't think it's close. I think Malcolm Butler's interception right there with Santonio Holmes and David Tyree's catches for one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history. Where William Perry's, it's one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history, but it's way lower on the list. Way lower. Like 50th or 60th best play in Super Bowl history. But anyway, Perry, fantastic player. Chicago Bears legend. Definitely going to be in the Bears Hall of Fame, but I can't put him in Canton, Ohio. And I know for a fact Canton, Ohio won't even put him in the Hall of Fame. Again, 29.5 sacks. Jerome Brown in 5 years had just the same amount of sacks. That's nuts. And his career got cut off short at age 27. Yeah, no, man. Again, great career for the fridge, but Hall of Famer, absolutely not. I'm sure one crazy or one diehard Bears fan is going to say, well, you weren't watching football in the 80s. You want to know how William Perry played. Again, I've watched about 9 games, full games from that 1985 Bears team that won the Super Bowl, including that Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. So, Perry played well in the Super Bowl. Didn't do much else during the playoff run, if I'm being honest. I can't put him in the Hall of Fame for that. All right, second to last one here, Jared Allen, another guy who should have been inducted last year because, well, he was up for eligibility, but he did not get in. But he does have 136 career sacks. He had the NFL sack record for a little bit, 22 sacks in 2011. One of 2 All-Pros in his career. The other All-Pro came in 2007 when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs, getting 15.5 sacks. He also made All-Pros in 2008 and 2009, getting 14.5 sacks respectfully. In 2006 with Kansas City, he somehow didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he had 7.5 sacks, 6 fumble recoveries, which led the league. And again, I know his career kind of fizzled off after he joined the Bears in 2014. He had 11.5 sacks with Minnesota in 2013. And then only registered 2 career sacks the rest of the way when he joined the Panthers in 2015. Well, 7.5 sacks including the 2014 statistics. Let's take a look at the playoffs. All right, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 pass deflections. Playoff statistics aren't really going to help him out there. But the 5 Pro Bowls, the 4 All-Pros, 2011 Defensive Player of the Year with 22 sacks, which I'm pretty sure is 3rd or 4th most all-time in NFL history. I mean, it only makes sense that he gets into the Hall of Fame soon, right? He won't be first ballot, but my God, he could definitely be high on there. 2004 All-Rookie team member, made the NFL Top 100 4 times. Again, won 2011 Defensive Rookie of the Year. He also ranked 5th in voting in 2009. 5 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros, 7 Player of the Weeks, 2 Player of the Months. Jared Allen, a Hall of Famer, every sense of the word. I don't care what you say. And again, say what you want about draft position, 4th-round draft pick. And that was with Kansas City. And he was still great in Kansas City. Obviously better in Minnesota, but still great in Kansas City. And last but not least, if you don't know the series by now, my last player is always going to be about a player that I think is long overdue to be in the Hall of Fame. And spoiler alert, same rules apply here with Joe Klecko. The greatest New York Jet defender of all time, not named Darrelle Revis. And Revis, he's probably going into the Hall of Fame next year where Joe Klecko won't. Joe Klecko made 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, 1981 Defensive Rookie of the Year where he set the then NFL record 20.5 sacks in a season. The year before that, 1980, he had the 2nd most sacks in his career at 10.5. Doesn't have much playoff statistics. He had a sack against the Bills in the 1981 wildcard game. So there you go. 78 sacks total. Spent his entire career with the Jets. Not quite. He played 12 years, 11 of which with the Jets. He also played in 15 games with the Colts, getting a fumble recovery, no sacks, and not making the playoffs. Well, we're talking about the guy who set the original sack record in a season. And again, the New York Jets, man, getting absolutely zero love here. Because, as much as I hate to say it, if Joe Klecko was on a team like San Francisco, like Pittsburgh, like New England, well, I guess not then New England, but, teams back then like Dallas, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Miami, he's probably in the Hall of Fame. And again, it's because he played with the Jets, and I'm fully on board with this. It's because he played with the Jets his entire career, which is why he's not. I say whole career, like I mentioned, he played with the Colts in 1988, but the Colts were terrible. The Colts were literally so bad. From 1980, since whenever they moved on from Burt Jones to whenever Jim Harbaugh came to town, they were terrible. You get my point. Joe Klecko definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. He's definitely in my Hall of Fame. I'm going conspiracy theory. If he didn't play on the Jets his whole career, again, besides the 1 year I played with the Colts, he's in the Hall. If he played with a bigger market franchise. But guess what? He didn't. Now, I don't care he didn't have a Super Bowl ring. He still has a Defensive Player of the Year. He still has 2 All-Pros. And he's still the greatest Jets defensive lineman ever. Again, other than maybe besides Darrelle Revis, the greatest Jets defensive player ever. Get Klecko in the Hall of Fame. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Hall of Fame or Hall of Good. This was the defensive end edition, if you couldn't tell. Next time will be linebackers, where I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a certain linebacker who played in the same era as Joe Klecko on the Denver Broncos. And I'm mad that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Spoiler alert, he has gold hair. Gold long hair. Wearing number 55 in the orange and blue. Hopefully, I kind of gave it away for you without saying who it is. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Can't wait to see you guys for my next broadcast. Hopefully it'll be Thursday. If I can commentate the Bears and Seahawks preseason game, that'd be nice. If I don't, I don't. Because I won't be able to commentate Friday and probably not Saturday either. So I'll try to squeeze in one more video for you guys this week, which again would be Seahawks Bears on Thursday, but we shall see. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Hall of Fame or Hall of Good. I'm Grant Flood from Flusher Sports. I'm saying enjoy the rest of your evening. Just to recap, Klecko in the Hall of Fame, Jared Allen in the Hall of Fame, William Perry, no, RayChildress, no, Elodie Nada, yes, Kevin Williams, yes, Charles Mann, yes, LC Greenwood, yes, Simeon Rice, yes, Phil Hanson, no, Vince Wilfork, yes, Julius Peppers, yes, Jerome Brown, no, and Cameron Wake, no. There you have it. Let me know your predictions or comments, ideas down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.